My name is Hannah Barco, and I serve as the Associate Curator at Tefra Institute of Contemporary Art. I've organized the Pressing exhibition, which features new work by Kansas City, Missouri-based artist Rena Detrixhe and Washington, D.C.-based painter Katherine Tzu-Lan Mann. The Pressing exhibition invites audiences to linger on the beauty of the natural world while considering the entanglement of ecological and human histories. At a moment when much of the social discourse around climate change is politicized, reactionary, and focused on increasingly concerning storms, sea levels, fires, and heat waves, Detrixhe and Mann create intricate and meditative works that reinsert slowness, contemplation, and intimacy back into the conversation about human impact on the environment.
My name is Rena Detrixhe. I'm an artist and a maker, and I live and work in Kansas City, Missouri. The work in this exhibition is an iterative, ephemeral sculpture called Red Dirt Rug. It's made from red dirt gathered and processed in Oklahoma, and over the course of several days, I carefully spread the earth onto the gallery floor and pressed patterns into the surface using stamps made from rubber shoe soles to create the overall form of an ornate carpet. The piece is a meditation and a reflection on the history of this landscape, and it carries with it many stories both of beauty and disturbance, of care and violence. My work often utilizes materials found in nature. I am interested in the intrinsic qualities that these materials possess, both physically and conceptually, and how they might be used to interpret and understand place, to build connections and awareness of how we live and make with the natural world and with each other on this earth. This work in particular is made of red dirt, which is a cultural signifier of a specific place, in this case, Oklahoma. And it also holds memories of what has taken place on this ground and to this ground and deep beneath this ground. The tools that I'm using to imprint the pattern in the surface are made from the soles of shoes, and I'm interested in how those function both as a thin separation between our bodies and the earth, and also how we're coming into contact with that earth. I'm also interested in how these patterns appear both as the immediate impact of one's foot on the earth and as the result of repeated impact over time that allowed that soil to be crushed and pulverized into this fine material. I appreciate when the work allows someone to reflect on the history and the futures of their home places and the places that they know and love, to think about what kind of impact that they're witness to and a part of. What kind of impact do you want to make? Is it gentle? Is it careful? Will it leave a mark? What kind of mark? Shifting one's conception of anything, whether that's a landscape or a place or history, that requires time and attention, and it often means letting go of previous notions, which can be difficult. So I'm happy if the piece creates space for that to happen. The piece is ephemeral, meaning that at the end of the exhibition, it will be swept away. And I'm interested in how that aspect of the work resonates with viewers. There's a sense of loss that's built into the process, and I think it's important to sit with that feeling.
My name is Katherine Tzu-Lan Mann. I'm an artist based in Washington, D.C. The pieces that I made for Pressing, I'm combining two really ancient materials and artistic traditions. I'm making panels of mosaic in which I'm combining glass, ceramic, tiles, found objects, stone with paper painting and the history of image making on rice paper. I was originally trained as a sumi ink painter in the Chinese tradition, and I really loved the idea of taking these mosaics and then treating them as a substrate rather than a finished, pure object. I'd say all of my work is really interested in contamination and combining disparate things. One tradition coming from Western art history and another tradition coming from Chinese art history. I'm essentially collaging rice paper over these finished mosaics and creating entirely new languages and worlds. Materially, they feel extremely opposite, the hard earthiness of stone and the light delicacy of lacily cut painted rice paper. I liked being able to work with these two materials because they dance between one another. Each of the materials is waxing and waning within each of the pieces. I think that a lot of viewers who are coming at their understanding of art history from a Western perspective may not have completely understood how that understanding is informed by Western art history, Western painting history, and essentially colonialism. There are so many different traditions of showing landscape, and our understanding of our environment is so impacted by all of those traditions. All of my work is about dealing with the art historical traditions of landscape painting in the Western canon, but then also from the Chinese canon. Dealing with the elements of the environment that we humanize and create symbols around. And then finally, they're also escapist, romantic portals. They're not just trying to replicate the landscapes that we live in, they are entirely new mythological spaces. I'm coming at these as a landscape painter who has always considered myself a landscape painter, even when I was a child. It is how I originally learned to paint. Also, a person who couldn't see myself in the history of landscape pictures on the Western side and was a little bit disconnected from Chinese landscape painting. So I'd say these pieces are very fully Asian American. An American who was growing up as an expat, who is an Asian, who is also biracial. I'm interested in celebrating the mess of matter that's in our world. There's a large mosaic work, it's called Capsule. In the bottom right-hand corner, there is an abstract form that looks like a void, but if you look really closely at it, you'll see it's actually the shape of a clam. I became really interested in our understanding of clams and different cultures' understanding of clams. In Chinese mythology, there is an idea of a clam monster called Shun. The character is very commonly used in speech when you're talking about making up tall tales. You can say the phrase 海市蜃楼, which means buildings and markets made by clams. This extremely common phrase comes from a mythology of a clam monster that lives in the ocean and can confuse sailors and fishermen by building cities out of bubbles in the middle of the ocean. And when I learned about this folkloric concept, I really loved the idea of the clam because to me it's an artist. It's building its own world, even if it's a world only made out of bubbles. Another symbolic figure that is a citizen of the environments that I'm building, 4 plants which are called the 4 gentlemen in Chinese painting. Those 4 plants are chrysanthemums, plum blossoms, orchids, and bamboo. You'll often see them everywhere throughout Chinese art history. And it's how I originally first learned to paint, was by painting these 4 plants. They symbolize the 4 seasons because each of them blooms and grows during spring, summer, winter, or fall, and they therefore symbolize the 4 seasons of our lives.
Each of the works in this exhibition is a landscape, a vision of a place formed through careful observation and mark-making. Each artist's departure from traditional modes of landscape painting offers a lesson in how to reconfigure our perception of the natural environment. By tending to the cultural and ecological specificities of their landscapes, Detrixhe and Mann lay the groundwork for us to cultivate enduring mutual relationships with place.